Good Tuesday evening, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. I think I remember it was Tuesday. I'm looking already ahead to Wednesday, the middle of the week. It's holiday week, can you tell? We're trying to get to the weekend as soon as possible. We just got a lot to talk about this week because we do have a lot of heat, a lot of humidity, and yes, legitimate rain changes. So start with your weather impacts. Yes, Wednesday and Thursday, two more really hot days, folks. Mid-90s possible tomorrow, low 90s on Thursday before the rain moves in. And that rain arrives late Thursday into Friday. Right now, that looks to be our highest chance of rain, but there will be rain chances throughout the holiday weekend. We'll give you the heads up. It's not going to rain the entire time, but there will be rain chances. I think the most widespread rain is going to be that Thursday night and Friday time frame in the weekend. Again, we talked about those rain chances being pretty isolated. Right now, high pressure is in firm control over the southeast. We can't buy a cloud, let alone a shower. All the front and active weather's off to the west. Hey, if you're out and about tonight and it's warm, you get a view of this. We had it last night. We saw Venus and the waxing crescent moon. But tonight you get an added bonus. Jupiter, the moon, and Venus will all be lined up after sunset in the western sky. Sunset in Charlotte, local time, 8:23. But really, I think 9 o'clock just about anywhere is like the perfect time. It's still high enough, but it's also dark enough for them to be really visible. And if you ever see a super bright, you think, star in the sky, if it's the brightest object up there, it's always going to be Venus. Venus is the second brightest night sky object outside of the moon. So when the moon and Venus are together, they stick out very vividly, even in the light pollution of a big city like Charlotte. Right now, we're still in the 90s. We weren't quite as toasty as Raleigh. 97 today. There's the third straight day of mid-90s for them. We might join that club tomorrow. The dew points, tolerable. They mixed out today, we call it. So 50s to near 60s, still humid, just not as sticky as it actually could be. The high today, 90, if you're wondering. This is the second day in a row of 90 plus. That is actually the first time that has happened since the middle of September. So we definitely have had some hot weather. We'll make it 3 in a row tomorrow, which will be the first time since, I believe, August that we've had 3 days in a row of 90 plus. Goes to show you, it's been a while since we've seen this heat, and it still is May after all. Upper 60s tonight and near 70 tomorrow. I'm going to go low to mid 90s, so equally as hot ahead of that cold front that'll be heading our way on Thursday. Now, rain chances. People see these chances and they freak out and they go, oh, I got to cancel everything, okay? The only time that I think we have widespread rain is Thursday night and Friday morning, maybe Friday midday. The rest of this is scattered stuff, okay? This is the afternoon, evening thunderstorms, not widespread rain. There'll be plenty of humidity for these storms, so we're going to see potentially some really, really muggy air. So just a heads up, it is going to be sticky. Here comes that front, though. It arrives probably Thursday night as a backdoor front, and because of that, it could stay cloudy and kind of drizzly, misty on Friday, even though I'm not expecting storms. You see that Friday afternoon, that's a lot of cloud cover and likely some drizzle. Let's look a little closer at that. So tomorrow, unlike today, I think we will see a few pop-up storms in the mountains only for the Piedmont dry. But look what happens Thursday. The first half of the day is dry. By 3 o'clock, we start to see pop-up storms. By 4 or 5 o'clock, a little bit more widespread. Here comes that backdoor front, and you could see, yeah, showers, and maybe I'm gonna back this up just so you could see that backdoor front comes in. Look at the northeast winds overnight into Friday morning. So Friday morning, wake up to probably some rain around that could linger into the first half of the day. So just a heads up, there's likely going to be at least some light rain around on Friday. That's why I said that's the time of the most widespread rain. If you have to change plans, it's going to be Thursday night, Friday morning, possibly. Now this weekend out at the Speedway, obviously, a lot going on. Friday, probably the worst of the widespread rain, but Saturday, Sunday, it's really hit or miss. So I'd love to tell you like when exactly those are going to happen. It's probably going to be after 4 or 5, and they're going to be isolated to scattered. So pinpointing where they are is going to be kind of a real-time event. We're going to have to kind of nowcast it on Sunday. But look at this. I've shown this map, I feel like, all spring, and we have never had widespread rain over 1.5 inches, 2 inches. We've got not just blue on there, but purples, right? So this is above average rainfall for the 7-day period, which is exactly what we want to see in a drought situation. Now, do I think everyone's going to get in on that? Probably not. It's still going to be pretty isolated. But we've seen this warming trend. It really started on Saturday. It accelerated this weekend, almost hit 90 Sunday. We did yesterday. We did today. We'll likely be 90 again tomorrow. And going into the weekend, again, I know it's a holiday weekend, but at this point, we need the rain. And you're still going to get your outdoor activities in, because here's the thing. These are scattered showers and storms, nothing widespread. So if you're going to go to the park or you're going to go to the lake or the pool, just have a plan, especially the later you get in the day, that there could be a passing thunderstorm. And so you might have to take a break for 30 minutes to an hour until that storm passes, and then you could head back out there. So your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Really nice to see the scattered thunderstorm chances back. This is kind of more typical of what May is, and really now the summer pattern. This is what this is. And it stays with us. The 10-day forecast, we've got temperatures low to mid 80s, but every day there's going to be a 40, 50, 60% chance of afternoon, evening storms. None of those days are complete washouts, but it also means not every day you're going to get rain. It could be hit or miss kind of variety. One day it's on the weekend, it's somebody else's house. The next time it's your house. So that's just the nature of afternoon and evening storms, but at least that pattern is returning, and it's something that can at least help with the drought, especially in the short term if you get under one of those downpours. Now, whether it helps the long-term drought, yet to be determined, but it is a good pattern to see going into the summer. It should at least slow things down a little bit, or at least let us tread water until we get more substantial rain. So stick around. We've got a guest today. We're going to be talking about Helene damage in the western part of the state and DOT's valiant effort to get things rebuilt.
Weather Impact Live with Brad Panovich is sponsored by Moisture Lock, crawl space, basement, and foundation repair experts serving the Carolinas since 1988.
Tired of all this rain? Does your yard look like a swamp after it rains? Hi, I'm Greg Doggett with Moisture Lock, Charlotte's premier waterproofing and foundation repair company. The longer water sits, the softer soil will become. This can cause foundation issues. If you're having drainage issues, contact Moisture Lock. We'll get the water away from your home and out of your yard.
Moisture Lock, stabilize, enhance, protect.
And we're back with Live Weather Impact. Tim Buckley joins me from WFMY. Tim, good to see you on this Tuesday. A pretty toasty day down here in Charlotte. We were 90 again today. I know you guys were toasty, but at least we weren't Raleigh.
We weren't. We don't want to be Raleigh. We're glad we're not Raleigh. What were they again, 97 or something like that?
97. Oh, my gosh.
Crazy.
Ridiculous.
What's interesting is, now that you just mentioned Charlotte, I think Charlotte, Greensboro, and Raleigh all had the same temperature 2 days in a row. 90, 92 here, 97 there.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, that's our first consecutive 90-degree days since September, mid-September, and tomorrow if we make it 3, that'll be the first time since August. So it's summer. It's finally here. So we're going to get right to our guest tonight because we have a great guest tonight, Tim. We have another Tim, Tim Anderson from the North Carolina Department of Transportation. And we saw Tim, James and I did, we were at the Integrated Warning Team meeting in Charlotte here, and he gave a great presentation on the recovery from Hurricane Helene. And some of the stuff that Tim's going to talk about is just, it's crazy. So I have a lot of good questions, but I really want to bring his knowledge and his experience to our audience, Tim Buckley, to let people know how the recovery is going. So let's welcome in Tim Anderson from the state DOT. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out for us.
Yeah, glad to be here and always glad to talk about the work we've been doing with Hurricane Helene recovery.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about like what is your role? Your title is a division engineer, and you're kind of I mean, what are you, like the head of the recovery project, basically, right? So, like, what is your role, and what do you normally do before all of this actually happened, and now you're in charge of this?
Yeah, so I'm the division engineer. The way the field operations for NCDOT are broken out, we have 14 divisions, and inside each division, there's multiple counties. And we're responsible for pre-construction, construction, maintenance, and operations and emergency response for the roadways and the state-maintained roadways in our counties. And I've got a 7-county region that starts with McDowell County, and I go north to Mitchell and south to Rutherford, and then we have Yancey, Madison, and Buncombe. So we end up with, then we got Burke, so we have a 7-county area there, and or like I mentioned in the meeting the other day, or ground zero.
Yeah.
Because the way the storm tracked it, that northeast corner came right through our part of the state.
Yeah.
Tim, thanks so much for joining us. I'm curious, tell our viewers, when you saw the storm coming and then it's approaching, what did y'all do to prepare? What kind of info were you getting, and how did you kind of put that into action for the storm?
Yeah, we North Carolina's a big state, and with the coastal area, we have we're used to hurricanes coming through and having to make repairs. And in the western part of the state, we see them pretty regularly too, especially if they come up through the Gulf like Helene did. And so as the forecast started to get a little bit tighter, in CDOT, we started having our meetings. All the division engineers and all of our Raleigh leadership staff and different technical units all get together. We bring in experts from the National Weather Service. Bad news, Nick Petro. He never visits us and tells us it's going to be great weather. We only have these meetings when the news is kind of bad. But Nick was involved early on, letting us know that we were going to have the stalled front and substantial rain in the mountains, and then the hurricane was going to track our way. And that's when, about a week in, we started hearing, a week out, we started hearing historic. And, I think Brad said it best the other day, history is only what you remember from the last worst time. And since none of us were around in 1916, we didn't really know what historic meant. We should have, we could have driven down and saw the marks on some of the buildings and got an idea, but we knew it was going to be bad. So with something like that coming, we start getting contracts ready, making sure we have cut and shove crews from all over the state, lining up other resources, divisions that aren't going to be hit so they can come help us, and getting our consultant partners ready so that they can help with assessments and managing contracts and all those things. And then with this storm, we have some locations that are kind of close to the water, so we started moving equipment. The more Nick talked, the further uphill we moved things. And ultimately, I had one maintenance facility. We lost our main structure, and fortunately, all of our folks were out, and we were able to get most of our equipment out of that area. And in Buncombe County, you have to cross a creek to get to the maintenance yard. Well, the creek became a river. So we had staged all of our equipment on the highway side so that we could actually go to work as soon as the weather broke enough and the winds died enough that it was safe for our crews. But kind of typical storm stuff, except for we took the warning, and then our hydraulics unit really got involved and started doing some things with modeling that helped us understand, what was coming to get us a little more ready.
Yeah, Tim. So I mean, you probably like you said, you've dealt with previous storms. What made this unique, and when did you realize that this was like something you guys had never really dealt with before, in at least our recent memory?
Yeah, the rain before we had already had to start closing some roads, so we knew that any additional rain, especially the high intensity rain, is going to be a problem. And the way our region sits with the eastern escarpment of the Appalachians, we see that squeeze effect pretty often. But on the way in that morning, I had to cut my way into work and chainsawing the truck, working my way in. I got to Burke Maintenance and called one of my guys, and he was already in Asheville, and I asked him how things were going, and he's like, it's pretty bad up here, and he's one to kind of stay calm, and he actually snapped that picture of 74A there, and when I told him I'd be up there in a little bit, he's like, you can't get here, and I was like, well, what does that mean? Because there's a whole bunch of ways to get to Asheville, and he started listing off everything that was washed out, cut off, or flooding, and when we saw 40 start going under in several different places, we knew this was a storm that unlike anything we had worked through.
Yeah, Tim, so you talk about the issues there in the Asheville area, and I think Asheville really caught the attention of, a lot of the country and got a lot of the coverage. You cover a big chunk of that area. What about places like Yancey County and Rutherford County? What did those areas see compared to the Asheville areas?
Yeah, Asheville's unique because it's got the confluence of the Shenandoah River and the French Broad River and down through the River Arts District. So that was, and it's kind of in a bowl. So we had that issue. And of course, it's a major population center, but this storm really rained out hard in areas, anything with some elevation. Baker Nut Gorge down around Chimney Rock obviously got, there's been plenty of press about it, but when you go to Yancey County, you start getting up against the Tennessee border. The mountains are steeper. We call them gorges around here. If you were out west, they'd probably call it a canyon. And we have quite a bit of those, quite a few of those locations. And what we saw was, the water really got squeezed out of the clouds. We had 30 inches of rain in some of the places around Yancey County, and the river was marking 30 and 40 feet higher than normal. And the pictures there with Whitson's Branch, that was a concrete bridge with great big heavy rails. It looks like you could just flip it over and stand it back up, but there was so much force with the water and so much debris, it just flipped our bridges over, snapped the foundations out in the river, or ripped them loose from the bedrock, and and it left damage that we'd never seen before, and a lot of places where folks couldn't get out. And,
Tim, I'm sorry, Tim. I was gonna ask you the next question here. That I thought was really staggering. When I saw your presentation, you were talking about the dollar amounts, which are like really mind blowing. Just real quickly, the first question here: what are the figures at right now for recovery, just in your region?
Yeah, so just in my division, so we have there's three really majorly impacted divisions, 11, which is around the Boone, Wilkesboro over the Boone area, and has Adair County as well, the Caldwell. And then you have my area that kind of spans from South Carolina to Tennessee. And then you have west of us in Division 14, which is all the way out through Silva. And our total estimate's about $5.8 billion right now, and over $3 billion of that's in my 7 counties.
Wow!
And the vast majority of that's in 5 of the 7. It's I think the little spreadsheet there kind of sums it up. Every storm that we've been tracking since 2016 added together is about $678 million in total expenditure. That's all work complete, and we're already around the $1.5 billion range with emergency repairs and quite a bit of actual permanent repair. But we still have major permanent repairs left, like those corridors of 19W 197 South up in Yancey County, Tonella, Chuckey area, and Yancey and Mitchell, and of course Chimney Rock, and then I-40.
Yeah, so I was
go.
going to ask you this. The interesting thing about this, and I've talked to like national audiences about Helene, and for people that aren't familiar with Western North Carolina, part of the reason people live there is, and I love it. It's my favorite part of the state. That's why Helene's so dear and dear to my heart, because of some of the areas I visited. But people go up there because they try to get away from people, right? It's like that's kind of the whole allure of going to the mountains. It's like to have the escape. And the population density in the mountains isn't nearly what it is like down here in the Piedmont or even Eastern North Carolina. So when you see these numbers, it's kind of mind-blowing, because the amount of infrastructure there you would think is less than other parts of the state. Is it because of the terrain and the kind of structures you guys have to maintain and build that the costs are so high, considering there's not as many roads as there would be, like I say, across the Piedmont? I think does a mile of infrastructure up there cost you more to repair than, let's say, in the Piedmont?
Yeah, so there's some of that. It is definitely more expensive to build in the mountains than it is in the Piedmont when it comes to straight construction, not counting right-of-way costs and things like that. But to get a back slope that's going to be stable, we have to go further up the hill with our cuts. We have to go further down with our fields. And what we run into, a lot of the roads up there, like 19W, it followed the river, so we lost off and on basically 30 miles of the roadway, which is unprecedented in DOT's history to lose that large a stretch of roadways. And when I say lost, there are stretches where the entire road was gone. And if it weren't, we utilized our consultants and LIDAR. Chimney Rock's a perfect example of that too. The entire roadway is gone, so we utilized LIDAR which is surveying system, to be able to put our temporarily repaired road back in place. And it's just the scale. The scale is the biggest thing when you just start talking about 3 miles of highway gone down in Chimney Rock, 30 miles and up in 19W in the Tonella Chuckey area, and then I-40's 4 or 5 miles of just complete damage, and instead of just a pipe here or a pipe there. And then on top of that, we have to replace about 150 bridges total, and most of those bridges are over rivers, not small creeks. So, and everything changed with the storm, with all the cut, and the erosion from it. You can see from that photo, it took everything that, normally the water comes up, water goes down, there's some scour and there's some erosion, but it just cut a new path in some places and took away so much material. We're having to haul in tremendous amounts of material, and since these places are very, a lot of them are pretty far away from a quarry, and the roads aren't straight in the mountains, so you have to have more trucks, and it takes more time. And then we have some.
Tim, if you had to estimate, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, Tim, if you had to estimate on, like a percentage basis of how much repair you've done so far, how much is still left to do for folks that haven't been up there, what's the status coming up on the 2-year anniversary of how much is still left to do, and what more do you need to make that happen?
Yeah, so we're over 80% complete with our sites, and we had around 9,000 sites up here that were damaged. And you can look at that map in March of 2025. The red dots and yellow dot was under construction. Red dot was damaged. We hadn't switched it over to partially complete yet. And then when you look at March of 26, you see a whole lot more green. And one of those dots might be a cross pipe, and that's a small project, takes a day, maybe a day and a half. The next dot may be a slope that takes thousands of tons of stone and a retaining wall, and it takes weeks and weeks to build. So, the dots show that there's a lot of it, but they don't really tell the entire story of what it takes to get everything brought back. But, the roads are open. Western North Carolina is open for business. Tourists are welcome, have been. Rock's open. 64 is actually open over to I-26 now, so and kind of make that loop. And obviously they need the business, but our first push when this storm happened was to reconnect our communities to the end of our road. Because we work on on our public right of way, and there were places that were completely cut off and communities that couldn't access a state road. So we were able to get that completed by December of 2024, and after that, it's been stabilizing or creating permanent repairs, or getting those contracts in place for those larger repairs, so those contractors can get working on those.
All right, Tim, we're almost out of time, but I have to ask you this because this is probably the most famous stretch of road that people outside the area are familiar with is I-40, right? And you guys did an amazing job just getting one lane open in each direction, I think way earlier than anyone anticipated. But talk about the long-term reconstruction of I-40 there. You mentioned it's about 3 miles or whatever that has to be repaired. What's the status of that? What kind of new techniques have you guys used, and how is that process going right now?
Yeah, so that process is over in Division 14. It's about 4 miles to the state line. It's moving quickly. Our contractor and design teams are working well. We're seeing a lot of innovation in there. I-40 has had issues before, and it's such a strategic corridor. We had to get it back open because there wasn't a good connection, especially with 26 being down in Tennessee for a while, in Irwin. So the 1 lane each way was reestablished by February, I believe, and that allowed that traffic to start flowing, and we're up to about 70% or so of normal traffic. As long as folks, follow the 35 miles an hour and pay attention when they're driving through, it's a good drive, and you can see a lot of interesting stuff. But there's been some real innovation out there. We're using roller compacted concrete to bring up our base so that we can, in some locations, and then in other locations, we're using an interlocking pile system that'll be driven into the ground to make sure that there's no scour underneath it in a future storm, to make sure that nothing's undermined. And those are things that we hadn't ever done before.
All right, Tim, thank you. Well, we're out of time. We're actually a little bit over, but I appreciate you. It's really amazing. You guys have been doing amazing work, and just goes to show we still have a long ways to go to get everything 100% complete. But boy, it's amazing we're even at the point we are right now. So Tim Anderson, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back tomorrow at this time, but we'll have more news coming up after the break.